Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. 20th century history is filled with tales of totalitarian regimes and brutal repression. Among them, the Gulag of the Soviet Union stands as a chilling symbol of political control and forced labor. From 1918 to the 1960s, the Gulag wasn't just a prison system, it was a vast network of camps that confined, exploited, and ultimately claimed the lives of millions. Today, we're going to explore this grim chapter of history. 1. Origins and expansion, the genesis of a horrific system. The Gulag system wasn't solely a product of Stalin's era. Its roots trace back to the early days of Soviet power under Vladimir Lenin. Lenin viewed forced labor as both a practical tool for nation-building and an ideological instrument for re-educating enemies of the revolution. Early camps, like the Solovki camp on a remote island, served as prototypes for future Gulag facilities. Here, the concepts of using prisoners as cheap labor and isolating political opponents were experimented with. However, it was under Joseph Stalin that the Gulag truly exploded in scope, becoming a colossal machine. The Soviet Union's urgent need for rapid industrialization and Stalin's desire for absolute political control fueled the system's unprecedented expansion. Massive construction projects, such as the White Sea-Baltic Canal, stand as grim testaments to the Gulag's brutality, where thousands perished due to brutal working conditions and disease. 2. Economic and political objectives. The dual purpose of the Gulag. The Gulag served a dual role in the Soviet vision. Economic purpose. Prisoners were used as an enormous forced labor force to extract natural resources in remote, desolate regions like Siberia and Kolyma, notorious for brutal gold mining operations. They built infrastructure, roads, factories, and worked in heavy industries, contributing to the country's economic development at the cost of human lives and suffering. Political purpose. The Gulag was the primary mechanism for enforcing Stalin's vision and suppressing all dissent. Article 58 of the Soviet Penal Code provided a vague legal framework for mass arrests on counter-revolutionary charges such as anti-Soviet propaganda or sabotage. The Great Purge, 1936 to 1938, dramatically swelled the Gulag population, with arrest quotas assigned to regions and show trials often preceding sentencing. Not only political opponents, but also ethnic minorities and kulaks, wealthy peasants, became targets of mass deportations and repression. 3. Daily life in the camps. Unimaginable brutality. Life within the Gulag camps was a continuous cycle of suffering and despair. Freezing roll calls. Each day began with long freezing roll calls in the early morning hours. Meager rations. Food was extremely scarce and often dependent on prisoners meeting impossible work quotas. This created a vicious cycle of malnutrition and exhaustion. Brutal labor. Prisoners were forced to work 12 to 16 hours a day with rudimentary tools in life-threatening conditions, particularly in mining, logging, and construction. Deplorable living conditions. Barracks were severely overcrowded, lacked basic sanitation, and were rampant with parasites and diseases like typhus, dysentery, and tuberculosis. Medical care was almost non-existent. 4. A system of cruel punishments. To maintain control, the Gulag employed a brutal system of punishments. Solitary confinement and beatings. Official punishments included solitary confinement in freezing cells, kartzer. Prisoners were also routinely subjected to savage beatings by guards or by criminal prisoners who were often given authority. Mock executions. These were a terrifying psychological weapon, causing lasting mental devastation to prisoners. Informant network. The widespread use of informers, stukachi, fostered an atmosphere of paranoia, making it impossible for prisoners to trust each other and destroying social bonds. Collective punishment. Entire barracks would suffer for the actions of a single individual, turning prisoners against one another. Sleep deprivation. This was another form of torture used to physically and mentally break down prisoners. 5. Dissolution and a painful legacy. After Stalin's death in 1953, a slow process of reform began. Nikita Khrushchev's secret speech in 1956, denouncing Stalin's cult of personality and the regime's brutality, marked a crucial turning point. Amnesties were issued, and special commissions began reviewing the cases of political prisoners, leading to the release and rehabilitation of thousands. The dissolution of the Gulag system transformed both the physical and psychological landscape of the Soviet Union. Millions of former prisoners returned to society, carrying with them stories of immense suffering and incredible resilience. However, the process of confronting this past remains controversial and complex in Russia today. The Gulag stands as an indelible scar on human history, a painful reminder of what can happen when absolute power falls into the hands of a totalitarian regime. Remembering the victims of the Gulag and ensuring their stories are not forgotten is our collective responsibility to ensure such tragedies never recur. Thank you for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more insightful and meaningful historical narratives. See you in the next video.